Some of you old folk, I know I'm 40, so I'm getting there too. And I grew up in the days of watching bowling in the 90s and 2000s, right? I know that's not necessarily the old days that everybody's talking about, but some of these old folk who keep talking about bowling from the 70s and 80s and 90s, talking about how dominant these players would be in today's game if they knew the patterns and had today's bowling balls. I'm going to be nice. There's one individual I'm thinking of who I finally just blocked because I couldn't deal with his ignorance anymore. But that is so completely false. It's unreal. Like, the way the patterns were designed in the yesteryears were not done with machines for the most part until when did the machines come out? Were they in the 80s? Yeah, they had to have been in the 80s. It might have even been before that, but they weren't the precise machines that they are now. The patterns were, let's just say, basically the same for the most part everywhere, right? And everybody had the same bowling balls. There wasn't the hundreds of different types of bowling balls out on the market like there is today. And so with that, the cross becomes really important. And this was the argument, was the guy said, well, the greatest bowlers in the world of all time never argued or never complained about the cross, which is completely false. Today, that is one of the most argued things, one of the most complained about things you'll hear from a lot of bowlers, like people that bowl regionals, people that bowl the tour, like stuff like that. Like, the unfortunate fact is who you follow, the people you follow behind, is a big determining factor on whether you're successful that game or not. Now, you can make the argument and say, yeah, well, if you made the adjustment, sure. Yeah, there's an adjustment to be made, but you only get 10 frames. And when the scoring pace is 230, 240, you only get one frame to figure it out. Maybe two at most. Because, and I don't want to hear I don't want to hear people say, well, the best in the world figure it out right away. No, they get lucky and they find they can make the correct move based on just an educated guess. Or they have a ball rep that's there telling them, hey, this is how they played the lanes before. This is what this guy was doing that was successful, and successful meaning probably bowled 220. Because most of the time they're going to look at you and be like, this pair's awful, get what you can out of it. And you're going to lose pins on that pair. So who you follow, what they're doing, what they're using. Like, I'll make a video. I will literally go throw shots on I'll oil two pairs, both with a, let's call it a 41-foot sport pattern. I'll use that PBA version 1 pattern. That's what I'll use, that we bowled on at tour trials. I'll use that pattern because that's what they're bowling on in my league on Wednesday nights at my bowling center, that my shop's at. But we'll put that out, and on one pair, I'll throw nothing but urethane. I'll get lined up with urethane and bowl on that pair. And then on the other pair, I'll bowl 4 games. And then I'll go bowl 4 games on another pair where it's where I'm just using reactive, no urethane at all. And I'll shoot my spares and all that. And I'll show you the difference on how those two pairs break down. In just the matter of one game with 4 people on your pair, the pair can either be trashed or it can be absolute gold because it's broken down correctly, or broken down in your favor, I should say. There's not really a correct way. I don't want to say there's a correct way to break down a pattern, but there definitely is a wrong way, for sure. And it just matters, like it really does. So to say that, like I keep saying it, like Earl Anthony, I know everybody loves Earl, and I know they touted him as the most accurate and everything else, and they tried to shut him out by doing certain different things, and they couldn't do it. I don't, unpopular opinion, I don't think Earl would make a cut in today's world. Doesn't have the rev rate. Would he adapt? I doubt it. Just think of guys like Walter Ray. Basically became obsolete once the power game came into play. Once these new modern patterns came into play, and it was all about power, dead. Does well on the PBA 50. And even there he's kind of fallen off a little bit. And you can say and blame age or whatever you want to say, but Walter's been the same bowler since the beginning of time. Great bowler, very accurate bowler. He understands what he needs to get his ball to do, but unfortunately on today's conditions, he doesn't have what it takes to get his ball to do what it needs to do on these patterns with these new bowling balls. Like, things have just changed so much, and it's almost like these guys that are, 50 years old plus just don't want to move on. Like, they just don't want to understand and adapt to the new game. They just want to think that the older bowlers of yesteryear are just, they were so much more dominant. I'm sorry, but put EJ back in those days, put Belmo back in those days, using just a few bowling balls, they're going to destroy people. You think those guys are winning everything now? You put them on those patterns with urethane balls and or plastic balls, or even the early days of reactive, the very first couple of reactive balls. Those guys would dominate. You think Walter would have won as many titles as he did? I don't think so. I think EJ would he have still won? I think back then, sure, because the variables were so few back then. They weren't as nearly as many variables. And I know there's going to be some old people that are going to argue with me on this, but the facts are facts, man. Like there's just way too many variables. There's so many more variables in today's game than what there was back then. And I'm not even just talking about the bowling balls. I'm talking about the different styles of game, different styles of play, you know, the different types of oils, the different types of lane surfaces now. I mean, it's just, it goes on and on. The different kick panels, the different flat gutters. Like, the list goes forever, the amount of variables that there are today. And so the game has gotten so much more incredibly hard at the competitive level. Now, at league level, you can make the argument that the game's gotten easier, sure, because the machines have made it to where the lanes are oiled pretty consistently from week to week, assuming nobody's touching the buttons. And and the bowling balls have just made it to where, you've got so much mistake room. It gives you so much strength in mistake room where you don't have to hit the pocket perfectly to strike. You don't have to throw perfect shots to strike. And those league patterns, they make it to where averaging 220 is kind of like scoffed at now. They're just kind of like, ugh, 220, you suck. It's kind of like that now. If you're not averaging 240 or better, people don't look at you like you're a good bowler. And according to this Mark guy, if you're not Hall of Fame eligible, you're not a good bowler, which is just really asinine and really weird, So I finally had to block the guy. I don't know if anybody's seen the thread that was on Facebook, but that guy was obnoxious, just absolutely annoying. And so, and like I've said before, like I don't put up with garbage. If you're going to spew ignorance, I'm going to come back at you and I'm going to correct your ignorance. Now, that's not saying there isn't times where I'm ignorant. Like there's times where I'm wrong, sure, and maybe sometimes it takes me a while to to figure out what was wrong and how I can correct it and to actually fess up to it. But eventually I do. But I will say, when it comes to this type of stuff, it's just common sense. Like there's just so much common sense when it comes to, the players of today versus the players of yesterday. And I'm not trying to take away from anything from anybody that bowled back then, from anybody that was elite, that anybody was great. The Mark Ross, the Marshall Holmans, the, Del Ballard, Johnny Petraglia, Amleto Monticelli. Like the list goes on and on of how many great bowlers there were back then. But again, those bowlers have not changed. Like maybe their rev rates came down a little bit. And again, that's just goes to show you that the game has changed so much that they can't keep up with today's power game. And that's why, like, you want to say that those guys would dominate. Well, the majority of those guys are still the same bowler. They still do the same thing. They're just as accurate. They know what to do to get their bowling ball to do what they want it to do. Unfortunately, there's all the variables that are in their way. Following a group of power players that force you to go way left because now they just completely chewed up the middle of the lane where you were playing. Now what do? You don't have the rev rate to get around them to go further left than them. So now you're going to get 9 the whole time. Scoring pace is 240. You just shot 2-0 because you got 9 the entire time. Congratulations, you lost 40 pins. This is why these guys can't keep up. This is why I can't keep up because I haven't figured out, and I'm not even a lack of power guy. Like I'm 450 and I can't keep up. And I'll admit, like a lot of it is probably me. I don't spend enough time. Like I'm more focused now on coaching and the pro shop and creating affordable tools for you guys, which by the way, I only have like 13 of these left. So if you want to get your ProSec, not ProSec, it's actually, I'm calling it the affordable quarter scale. You can see it's got all the degrees and everything on it. I'm perfecting it right now, so it sits perfectly and does everything, but this thing is accurate. It's pretty damn accurate. If it's maybe less than a degree off, maybe if it is. I don't think it is, but somebody I'm sure will complain about it. But they're only $34.99. So you can get yours over at 10pindoctors.com. I think I have 13 left. And if once those, because I'm selling 50 right now, so I have time to create them, make them, ship them. So allow a couple of weeks for me to get those out to you. But yeah, those are available at 10pindoctors.com. So once those 13 more are gone, and I get these first 50 shipped out, I might make a new color. Maybe I'll make a red one. Maybe I'll make a green one. Maybe I'll mix it up. Maybe I'll get red, green, black. I don't know. I'll have a bunch of different colors or something, and I'll sell them that way. Who knows? We'll see. But as far as the yesterday, like, people need to, like, I want to tell these old guys, like, y'all need to grow up. It's time to adapt and understand that today's game is way harder than what it was before. I know you're looking at League because you bowl League and everybody's scoring so high in League and you think the game's easier because of that. That is just, the game is not about League. Like, League is fun. League is cool. It keeps people involved. I love League. I love that you guys get to bowl League and, get to keep the egos with the averages and stuff. That's awesome. I commend anybody that goes and bowls a sport league, that goes and actually bowls on patterns and understands and can show a little appreciation for, those guys that are averaging 230 and 240 on some of these patterns that a 230 house bowler is going to average 160 or 170 on. They're just that different. They're just that much harder, and people don't understand the difference there. So that's why another one of the reasons why today's game is so much harder. So I commend anybody that's out there doing it. Anybody that's actually competing and putting in the work and practicing the way they should. Not like me. I don't practice. I don't do enough because I'm trying to do so many different things. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, man, I've never actually fully committed myself to this game, ever. Like, I committed for a month or two at times where I'm like, okay, I'll practice and then I'll go compete and I'll have some success. But then I just kind of like fall off. Then I'm like, not really into it. At the time I was married and I'm like, I just want to spend more time with my kid. I just want to spend more time with my wife. Like, I just wanted to be home. I didn't want to do it full time. I still don't want to do it full time. Hence why I didn't even go bowl the regional last weekend. And I didn't bowl EJ's regional this weekend. I wanted to go, but I just don't want to. I just don't want to put in the time to practice. I'd rather make video, teach bowling, help you guys get better, and allow you guys to go out and make the money bowling. And maybe, just maybe, I can help the industry grow a little bit and help to get more money involved in bowling to make the tournaments more worthwhile. So that way all these kids that are going through junior gold and college bowling and everything have an even bigger platform to go bowl on, have even more money to go bowl for. So I'm just trying to help the industry, and if it takes me calling out the old guys to get them to adapt and understand that the modern game is not the same as what it was back in the day, then so be it. Then I'm going to do it. So anyway, make sure, help me out. Go get your Pro Set, your affordable quarter scale over at 10pindoctors.com. I'll put a link in the description for you. I also have some other stuff that's coming that's going to be really cool. Some training devices and stuff that I'm designing. So be on the lookout for that. We're helping bowlers get better every single day. So make sure to look over at 10pindoctors.com. You'll see stuff. Go over to bowlerx.com. Get all your bowling needs over there. That's all I got for you. I'm out of here. We'll see you guys later.